This raspberry pie recipe with frozen raspberries is going to be absolutely delicious. Here I have two 12-ounce bags of defrosted frozen berries, so for a total of 24 ounces or 680 grams. I have 1 1/4 cups of white sugar as I measured 263 grams. When I was researching this recipe, some of the other recipes call for 1 1/3 cups of sugar. I think you could, but honestly, I think 1 1/4 cups is the sweet spot. I'm also adding 8 tablespoons or 80 grams of cornstarch. I know it's a lot, but if you have seen my blackberry pie and strawberry pie videos, you need a lot of cornstarch for berries because they're really runny. So I'm adding that. I also have 1/8 teaspoon of salt already in the sugar, just to balance out the sweetness a bit. And 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I think that raspberries are a little more interesting than strawberries, a little more tart, but they're not as tart as blackberries. So they need something in the middle in terms of lemon juice. Honestly, I think you could leave it out if you wanted to, just like you could add a little bit more sugar. Honestly, I think maybe you could even do a cup of sugar if you want. I think raspberries are kind of, like I said, in the middle. You can make it more sweet or more tart, but this is what I'm going to go with. Like I said, my berries are defrosted. I'm just going to add my sugar, my lemon juice, and my cornstarch. Like I said, I already have a bit of salt in there. Off to the side, I have my par-baked 9-inch pie crust. Par-baked at 350 for 5 minutes. And I prick some holes with a fork in the bottom crust. I use my homemade recipe, but feel free to use your favorite recipe or a store-bought crust. Once the raspberry filling is mixed, just simply pour it into the par-baked pie shell. Now it's time to put on the top crust of my raspberry pie. Like I said, I'm using a homemade crust, but if you use a store-bought, that's totally fine. It will probably look similar to this, rolled out between wax paper or something similar. The key to this is to peel back one piece of the wax paper, and then just like I've done with all my other fruit pies, flip it, center it over the pie, and then peel back the wax paper. So I'm going to do that right now. If this is intimidating to you, you could always just cut it into strips and put those on top. So now that my top crust is on my pie, I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to go around and I'm going to clean up the edges. So I'm just going to cut off the pie crust that is hanging over the edge. Now that the edges are cleaned up, I'm just going to take my thumbs and make a design around the edge to help seal together the top and the bottom crust. You could use a fork as well. And now to vent the pie. We have to cut slits into the top crust because as the fruit cooks, it's going to create steam pushing the top crust up. That's going to cause a hollow space to form, which is unsightly. So we need vents for the steam to escape. And there's my oven, preheating to 350. Like I've done in my other videos, I found the center, and this time I think I'm a bit off, to be honest. That's okay. And then I use my ruler to guide me as I cut slits into the pie. Like I said, I'm a bit off this time, but That's okay. It's late. I'm not going to tell you what time it is. Also, just like in my other fruit pie videos, I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of sugar now that I'm done putting the vents into the top of the pie. And I'm just going to sprinkle the sugar over the top. It's going to add a nice bit of extra sweetness and crunch. My raspberry pie just came out of the oven. It was in at 350 for 57 minutes, so a little bit longer than usual. Boiled over slightly over here, but not too badly. It's okay. I left it in because it didn't seem like it was boiling, and it seemed like the crust wasn't getting as brown as usual. I think maybe because it's so juicy. But I can definitely smell it now, and it's going to be awesome. Once the pie cooled down, I couldn't wait to dig in. Although this raspberry pie recipe turned out great, I still want to make a few comments. Even though it was good, I'm not sure that I would make it again. I usually like raspberry flavored things, so I was expecting to really fall in love with this raspberry pie. However, that didn't happen. Part of the problem was that I think that maybe it needed slightly more sugar, maybe just 2 more tablespoons. But even with a bit more sugar, I felt like this raspberry pie just wasn't as flavorful as I was expecting it to be. This one was nothing like my strawberry or my blueberry pies, which are absolutely out of this world. Part of me thought that maybe it was the brand of raspberries that I used, but honestly, I've used strawberries from that same brand of frozen fruit, and those are really good, so I don't think it was the brand. Like I said, I can't quite put my finger on exactly why I didn't love this raspberry pie recipe. Maybe I just don't like raspberries as much as I thought I did. Although the flavor was good, but not life-changing, one aspect of this pie that some people probably would not like was the texture. I know that not everyone likes seeds, so that's why you can find raspberry jam both with and without seeds. Seeds usually don't bother me, so things like blackberry pie or blackberry cobbler, I still really like. However, in this raspberry pie recipe, I felt like the seediness took away from the overall experience. Once again, I can't quite put my finger on exactly why, especially since blackberry pie is arguably seedier and I really like that. Also, in terms of aesthetics, I liked the bright shade of red of the filling, but I didn't like the fact that the raspberry seemed to disintegrate. Although the frozen raspberries looked like they had already started to fall apart when I opened the bag, when I went to slice this raspberry pie, I could see that the raspberries had almost totally and completely fallen apart during the cooking process. Once again, at first I thought that maybe it was the brand of frozen raspberries that I bought, but then I did a Google search for raspberry pie recipes, and it looks like the raspberries breaking down in the oven is just a characteristic of raspberry pies. Almost none of the baked raspberry pies had whole raspberries in the filling. Once again, although this raspberry pie was definitely good, it wasn't my favorite. Would I make it again? Maybe, just to see if I could perfect it. However, if you absolutely love raspberries, I think that this raspberry pie recipe is worth trying. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.